FPUC is in the third stimulus package. It's from March to August. But a lot of push is underway to block that because it sets FPUC, UI, and PUA to expire in August. I had viewers in the last few days saying, my unemployment expires in April. What do I do? Don't worry about that. Unemployment will be extended all the way to August, but should it be extended further? It should. In this Overnight LA video, I explain how to get FPUC. What is FPUC retro? UI, PUA, and how to do escalated benefits, how to certify for benefits. All your unemployment questions answered in this throwback video that covers all that and more on unemployment. FPUC heats up, but is there a deal in the work, and will it land exactly at $600 a week? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LA with Afternoons LA with a big update about second stimulus packages and all that negotiation. This is Afternoons LA that starts every day at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time with the check, then goes to hazard pay, then FPUC, and finally rent assistance. We've been reporting since Friday that a deal is in the work, that a deal is imminent, that a deal is about to get signed. That same day, the president said he came out in support of $600 per week for FPUC, not the $200 ridiculous offer proposed in the Republican plan. But what is the latest developments? The latest developments is breaking news from minutes ago about where Nancy Pelosi thinks it's going to land, and I think it will land there as well. If you don't know, the negotiations center on the amount of money to be given for unemployment benefits of FPUC, which go on top of UI and PUA. FPUC has expired. FPUC was provided for you in the CARES Act written in May, which became law in the first stimulus package. The craziness of the writing of the law was that it was drafted and passed into law to expire while members of Congress were on vacation. So the law expired, people did not get their benefits, and now they're without those benefits. So now Congress is acting to get those benefits extended, and certain groups are doing different things to trash talk the other one. But I've told you to focus on the bill, not the trash talking. Last Friday, I reported that the deal is in the works and that the deal will likely follow the path of the Democrats. The Democrats proposed $600 a week all the way to January 2021. The Republicans proposed a ridiculous thing, was basically $200 a week for the month of August, and then after that, it falls off into basically nada, and states can ask for a waiver and not pay you anything. So basically it's $0 come September. I mean, it's just a ridiculous proposal. I had reported back on when right before the bill was introduced, which was a week ago today, that if the Republicans come in at $400 or $500 a week, then maybe the Democrats will move. Well, they didn't. They came in at $200 a week, and Nancy Pelosi made it very clear what's happening. She said, we're not going to negotiate on $600 a week. It's going to be $600 a week. Well, as you saw in our videos starting on Friday, the Republicans have now agreed in principle to $600 a week. The president tweeted that he's in favor of $600 a week, that he's asked for Nancy and Chuck to agree to $600 a week, but with a caveat. And that caveat has been made public as well by Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump, just today as well. The offer was to extend $600 a week for 1 week. And Nancy and Chuck said, no, what are we doing for what are we doing here for 1 week? We're not here to do 1 week. Now, you could say they don't want to do it for just 1 week because they're going on vacation next week, but ultimately they say, no, this pandemic is going on longer than a week. Why are we just doing 1 week of relief? Let's get this $600 all the way to next year. And then came this, the real bombshell from today, which basically shows where the ball is going to drop and the negotiations are likely going to land with a deal. Nancy Pelosi basically slipped a little bit and said that she is now willing to back off her $600 a week if a certain thing happens. That certain thing is if unemployment improves. And it's exactly what Steve Mnuchin has been arguing for, just done with a different type of economic indicator. Steve Mnuchin has always said that he doesn't like a number because because if there's jobs there, people won't go back to work. Nancy and everyone else that has a brain cell says there are no jobs, Steve. No one's going back to work because there's no jobs. So now she's basically saying, well, Steve, if you're worried that there will be jobs and we're paying $600 a week, guess what? I'll back off of that and I will reduce the amount or get rid of the amount if we have a drop in unemployment. As the unemployment number goes down, this is a direct quote from Nancy Pelosi today, as the unemployment goes down, the number, the $600 a week, can go down, Nancy Pelosi tells News. So this is dramatically different than last Friday, and it also shows what had happened in the negotiations. The unemployment numbers are very, very clear. We're at the 19th consecutive week of unemployment claims, over 1 million new claims per week. This means 1 million new people going on unemployment assistance every week. 1 million new unemployed people in the United States every week. We haven't seen that since the Great Depression. 19th consecutive week of that. Steve Mnuchin has been sitting back and saying, well, people aren't getting back to work and people are staying home because they don't want to go back to work. Nancy's saying they're not going back to work because there's no jobs to go back to work, Steve. Look at the data. Now we see that apparently that's a lot of hogwash in front of the cameras, and behind the scenes they're basically agreeing to the same thing. That if the pandemic settles down in a couple months and there are jobs to go back to, we don't want those people still collecting benefits when they could have been going back to work. Now, there's a fundamental problem with this analysis, and I'll tell you what it is. It seems like I'm telling the almost obvious thing, but these bunch of children don't realize what's going on here. States, for unemployment benefits purposes, get reports from employers as to whether or not that employee's job is now back available. So, for example, let's say you were laid off temporarily in the month of May, and now come October, that job is now back available and the furlough period has been ended and you're invited back to work. And you go to the state unemployment website and you certify for unemployment, say, I don't have a job to go back to work for. Give me another week of unemployment benefits. Well, the employer reports you were offered a job to go back to work to. The state, by default, by their own computer system, is supposed to not pay that week to you because the employer reported you had a job to go back to, your job from before, not a new job, but the job you had before, and you declined that employment. You cannot decline employment from this prior employer and collect employment insurance. And so Steve Mnuchin's sitting back and saying people are going to stay home and not go back to work. They can't because the systems don't allow them to get benefits. So I don't understand how this guy is talking about. It really makes no sense. But for purposes of FPUC, for purposes of PUA, who are independent contractors, their data doesn't come from an employer. They're self-employed. So clearly Mnuchin may have an argument there that when you're self-employed, there's no one to say, hey, that self-employed person has a job to go back to because he's self-employed. And there's no way to track whether that self-employed person is staying at home rather than getting back to work and collecting unemployment benefits. So Nancy's saying, hey, I'll show you my cards. For purpose of negotiation, my cards are I will drop $600 a week if unemployment numbers improve. But currently they're not approving, so we're staying at $600 a week. I love it. It supports all economic data. It supports where we are in this pandemic and supports the logicalness of where we are going. When asked about the situation currently this week, Nancy said it's sort of like a burning house. A fire is burning, and someone runs up to the fire, the Republicans, and they think to themselves, how much water should I throw on it? Should I just throw a little bit of water just to put out the fire? Or should I ration off the water? Should I just use like 2 buckets of water instead of 6 buckets of water? She said the house is burning down and these people are not willing to just throw enough water. And it's a very good analogy because basically what you have is what the economists say, that when you have a financial cliff, when you have rampant unemployment, when you have 40% of Americans who are who made $40,000 or less last year, now unemployed, when you have, you know, 2/3 of Americans, or it's 50% of Americans, facing eviction this week because they can't make rent because they don't have income. When you have these horrible numbers and you're sitting back as Steve Mnuchin saying you're staying at home because you had a job and you didn't have to go back to the job, there's no economic data that supports that contention, Mr. Secretary. There's no economic data that supports that people have jobs and they're staying at home and not going back to work. Moreover, the Federal Reserve out of Boston and Chicago issued a report a few days ago that said, you know what, we're going to analyze the situation, analyze the Treasury Secretary's claim. I mean, this is actually a federal agency that's examining a White House cabinet member's claim, and to see whether or not people who are offered $200 a week are less likely to go back to work than people who are offered $600 a week. And it found no economic data of the sort. So there's absolutely nothing that supports the Treasury Secretary's contention that we should give less money to people because somehow it helps something. It doesn't. And ultimately, what happened was the president got behind the Democratic plan, but didn't like to make it look like he got behind the Democratic plan. On Friday, he says, I support $600 a week. In essence, saying that, hey, right now, the current economic environment warrants $600 a week. And he said, I support it, but it's Nancy and Chuck's fault. They're not going to give it to you. No. Nancy and Chuck support $6 a week, just more than this week. By Saturday, Sunday, and again today, Monday, the White House was dispatching Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff, and Steve Mnuchin to offer to the Democratic negotiators, Nancy and Chuck, and offer $600 a week for 1 week. And they're like, come on, what are we doing? Why is it 1 week? What's with this 1 week? Get enough weeks done and let's get it done. And so ultimately she's not moving. And ultimately you're going to get $600 a week. And ultimately it's going to be multiple weeks of $600 a week. But there's that wonderful backstory. Will she give a concession? And it appears that the concession is that if unemployment numbers drop in a couple months from now, which they will, I mean, you know they will at some point when they're, you know, when the vaccine is issued, when the Merck drug or whoever has that drug is issued, the 5-day pill that you don't get COVID-19, when that's issued in February or January or December, then unemployment numbers are going to improve. They're going to go down. And at that point, $600 is not warranted. Ironically, that's sort of exactly what we've all been wanting. No one across the country supports $200 a week. When polled all last week, they didn't support it $200 a week in swing states. They didn't support it in Republican strongholds. There were Republican senators didn't support it. Republican governors didn't support it. No one supported $200 a week, and it didn't look good. The optics of it was it didn't look good. It looked like a bunch of stingy people not taking care of their own citizens during a pandemic. And ultimately, the White House understood that. So they decided to say, hey, we'll give you $600 a week. Just how many weeks of it? Ultimately, a lot of people have been asking a couple questions, so let me answer them right now. First, will you get retroactive weeks paid? Don't know the answer. Likely. You know, the Democratic proposal and the Republican proposal have to be merged and that the terms have been negotiated, but it's so likely because the story of all this entire second stimulus package, and I'm not talking about channels, I'm talking about broadcast news, ABC, CBS, NBC, it's front page news, morning, noon, and night. It is the most talked about subject matter that they're covering. So to say that they're going to start if the bills pass, you know, in 2 or 3 days from now, and the first thing they're going to talk about is, okay, when are people getting $600 a week? And then they're going to follow it up with, well, how about that week that they didn't get paid? So they're obviously going to ask that question. We're going to get that answer. I think it's likely you'll get retroactive benefits for those weeks you're unpaid. Next, and this is so important, this came as an advice of one of the viewers in the private from EIDL, Zavi. He said, hey, remind them to certify for their benefits. That's so important, especially for this lapse week of $600. What am I talking about? This is so critical. So this is why you have to always stay to the end of the video. This week, last week, next week, these potential weeks in which you're not getting the $600 from the federal government, if you're impacted by COVID-19, you're eligible for your UI or PUA benefits that week. You have to go to your state's website and certify for benefits to get those UI and PUA weeks. you'll get those payments. You won't get the $600 now, but it'll set you up to get the $600 if the bill is passed and it has a retroactive provision in it. Yes. Let me tell you what not to do. What not to do is not to certify for benefits this week, not to certify for benefits last week. Wait to see what happens with the bill. Then see the bill is passed. It's like, oh, the bill passed. Let me go back and certify for benefits. And then you go to the state's website and it's like, sorry, it's too late. You're supposed to certify for benefits a few weeks ago. What happened to you? Where were you? Certify for benefits now, because if FPUC is passed and it's retroactive, they will send you the $600 separately. A lot of people have asked me, not in the last couple days, but early on when we were talking about FPUC, how does it come in the manner in which it comes? And this is so critical, especially as we get to this week. FPUC is sent out by states, but often it is sent separately from your UI or PUA benefits. And in the case of what we're dealing with, this hot mess express right now, it's clearly going to be sent differently. So if the bill is passed in the next few days and you've already certified for your benefits, I watched that kid with the blue shirt. I'm like, I certified for my benefits. I'm ready for my FPUC. Where is my money? And they say, okay, you're going to get your money. And they put something on your state's website in Oklahoma. And they're like, hey, folks, your check is, your $600 is coming. You're going to be like, where's my $600, LLA? Well, it may likely come to you in a manner in which you've not received your prior benefits. A lot of states sometimes send the $600 out in a way that is different than the way that you normally receive your UI or PUA benefits. They have done it before in this process, and they will likely do it again. So just be forewarned that, you know, it may come to your address by paper check when you normally see things by direct deposit. There's all that wonderfulness. Bottom line is great news today. Thank you for this weekend. I had asked you, let's get to 130,000 subscribers. You did it. Yesterday, we became the first YouTube channel to reach 130,000 subscribers in exactly 100 days. Wow. We're doing about 1 million views every 48 hours. Let's see as a family if we can get to 150,000 subscribers in a week from now. That's 7 days, 20,000 new subscribers. I think we can do it. Like and share. Share this video with your friends and your family and your co-workers. Tell them, hey, watch that kid LLA. Let's get it going. Join me next on Rent Assistance coming up right after on this video. Remember, every day is Afternoons LLA starting at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. And then Evenings LLA starting at 6:45 Pacific Standard Time. That one is about the check again, questions and answers, and EIDL. Stay motivated, stay positive, stay focused, and stay of LA for more.